Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thank you so very much for dropping by this video. A warm welcome to anyone who's new. This channel is dedicated to the life, teachings, and work of a very special being named Bruno Groening. You can find out more about him in the link that is in the chat box or below this video. Good morning, everyone. The sun is beginning to rise over here. I'm feeling inspired for one more day. And specifically, I'm feeling inspired to face some challenges. I used to hate challenges and want life to be all simple and easy. And I'm slowly realizing that facing challenges and overcoming them is actually part of, in my view, part of the meaning of life. And we can find specifically that learning. And part of learning is facing challenges. And Bruno Groening spoke about life as a school, which is, it's such a simple statement and it's such a cliche. And the more I take it seriously, it's becoming the lens, one of the primary lenses through which I look at this world, that I am here to learn and grow spiritually. And part of that is facing challenges, overcoming challenges, and even learning from. And in some moments, even saying thank you for challenges. Some moments. So I had a very interesting conversation yesterday with a friend of mine. She's not familiar with Bruno. And so this person has a big decision to make. And she basically knows what the right decision is, but she doesn't know how to start it. And she has resistance to doing it. And, the easy thing for me would have been to say, well, just go ahead and do it. But of course, that doesn't help. And that's me just trying to play fix it. And we all do that sometimes. Luckily, I didn't do that. But earlier that morning on a walk, I'm facing a big decision, not as big as hers. And I've been going back and forth, and I've been praying and seeking God's will and getting clarity. And then the next day I'm like, no, and get the opposite clarity. So I finally realized I am in a process with this, with my own decision. And part of that is that there's things for me to learn. There's attachments to let go of. There's challenges to face. There's old habits and patterns to be made aware of and to come up with new. So I just realized, okay, I'm in a learning process, and apparently it's not going to be easy. And so I was really sitting with that, and then out of the blue, this person who I haven't spoken with in months called me up, and we just chatted. She, described this big decision that she's facing. And I just said to her, I said, it sounds like you're in a process and that there's learning and growth that needs to happen. Because again, she, unlike me, she's clear what she needs to do. She just has resistance to doing it and doesn't know how to get started. And so I just shared, well, it sounds like you're in a process. And what I meant by that is learning or growth process. And it's probably going to take some time and some growth and some discovery and some things that'll need to change inside of you. And then I shared, I'm saying this because I'm in the middle of something as well. And I'm trying to make a big decision, and there's clarity. before I get to clarity, it seems like there's some things I'm going to need to learn. But this is where it gets really rich. And then I realized that what's most important is the spiritual growth. Like, I have a decision to make about something that's something I want, and am I going to do it or not? Something actually I really want. But what I've gotten clear on is that actually the growth of sitting with this decision, of praying, of becoming aware of old habits, old beliefs, old things that block me from God's guidance, and getting being made aware of things that I'm attached to in an unhealthy way that also block from God's guidance. And I had this beautiful moment of surrender that the growth that will come from this is actually more important than me getting what I want. And so, to connect this all to Bruno Groening, Bruno said, if a healing doesn't occur, it is because the person has not attained the necessary spiritual maturity, or there's something to be learned. So I used to think of that just in terms of physical healing, but now I'm starting to see that that applies to everything, including guidance, including making life decisions. Like, it's so nice when everything just flows, right? When you're like, what do I do? And you tune in for a moment, I'm like, oh, okay, go do that. Like, it's so nice. Life is so good when that happens. But that doesn't always happen. And here's the question, why doesn't that happen? It's easy to blame God, but my understanding is that there's something inside of me or us that's blocking that clear guidance. Like, God is always sending blessing and always sending guidance, but sometimes there's things inside of us that are blocking that. And isn't it nice when we can become instantly aware of and just let it go? Sometimes we can't. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes there's a learning process that needs time and takes time. So this connects to one of something that Bruno once said that was so fascinating to me. And Bruno said, with one word, I could heal every sick person in this town. But wouldn't that be such a tragedy? Because then they would go about doing more evil. Now, that's a paraphrase, but it's almost exactly what Bruno said. And I still sit with that to this day. It's such a profound statement. Let's think about that. So Bruno, by his own report, had the capacity with one word to heal every sick person within a city. I mean, that could be tens of thousands. Who knows? Don't know what city he was in when he said that. But first of all, he didn't do it. And second of all, he didn't do it because it wasn't God's will that he do it, because Bruno always said that he followed God, and he never gave to people the way they wanted. He gave to people the way God, what was given to him from God. That in essence, like if someone said, oh, Bruno, I want this. Well, Bruno would only give that if God had instructed him or given it to him to pass along. So that's the first piece. But the second piece is that if Bruno were to say that word and heal all those people, that it would actually be worse. Now that's hard to fathom. I'm still sitting with that. I don't claim to fully understand it. But Bruno said that human beings bring misery upon themselves. And illness doesn't happen for no reason. It's because we've taken in and followed evil. And so if the illness is just removed, but the cause, following evil or doing what's not right or thinking what's not right, then the person will, without the illness, the person will just have the capacity seemingly to go do even more harmful things. It's almost as if illness is more like an alarm clock or a fire alarm that's letting us know something's out of alignment. We've done something off, or probably done many things that were off. So it's so important to, whether you resonate with the exact words or the exact story I'm sharing of, Bruno's teachings, but it's so important to understand that bad things aren't just random. They happen for a reason. According to Bruno, they happen because we've done harm. And then the process of healing is not just getting rid of the illness, though that's a beautiful, important part of it, but coming to understand where we were out of alignment. In essence, through thought, word, or deed, how we stepped away from God, and usually unknowingly, but regardless, stepped into evil. It's not the most most fun thing to think about. Like, oh, I did something out of alignment. That's why this negative thing is happening, or that's why I have this illness or burden. But it also can bring a lot of peace in the long run, because without this view, life doesn't seem fair. God doesn't seem fair, and it's very easy to feel like a victim, which is a very unfun and unpleasant state of being. And then this connects to a larger view of the world, right? Because if you look around, the world's kind of messy right now. And it's very easy to be, why, God? Why? Why don't you just fix all this? If you're all good, if you're all powerful. Well, Bruno said that God allows free will, and will allow us, and it's almost exactly what he said, allow us to, in essence, create almost hell on earth with that free will. Why? For the sake of learning. Why? Because if we were forced to do good, then we wouldn't really be human beings. We'd be more like robots or machines. We wouldn't really be children of God. We would be machines of God. So the paradox is, all the suffering we experience personally and in the world is because God has given us the gift of free will and the gift to learn. And sometimes that learning is painful because we make bad choices and then we have to experience the consequences. Very early in my spiritual quest, there was this very interesting Indian teacher named Haidakan Babaji, really one of the first spiritual teachers I connected with. And he once said, I could heal all of you of everything, but then you wouldn't learn anything. And he was known as miracles happened around him all the time, not to the number that they happened around Bruno. But I was like, oh, I mean, it's so clear. He said, I could heal all of you of everything, but then you wouldn't learn anything. So, on one level, that's very clear. But on another level, is like, oh, well, just heal us. Just heal me. Heal the world. Just take away all these problems. Take away all these challenges. But then we wouldn't learn anything and grow. Now, I'm not here trying to glorify problems or suffering. But the other extreme is pitying ourselves. Oh, woe is me. Or, oh, why do all these bad things happen to me? And I can speak to that because I've done it a lot. And I'm doing it less now, thanks to Bruno's teachings, thanks to having this context of life as a school and having a context for why the ultimate religious spiritual question, why do bad things happen to good people? Because of past misdeeds. Not as punishment. Bruno was adamant that God does not punish, but so that we can learn and grow. Now, this can seem harsh sometimes, and Bruno spoke about doing past misdeeds in a past life. In fact, he was very specific. He said, let's say that you do something wrong. Let's say Janet. Let's say in a past life, Janet and I had this conflict. Maybe I did some harmful things to her, she did some harmful things to me. And then in this lifetime, I bump into Janet again, except, she's not Janet anymore. She's Sally. So I don't recognize and I don't remember. And someone once asked Bruno, well, why don't we remember? And he said, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, in essence, it's so that you can learn to make the right decision on your own. If I just recognized, oh, your name's Sally, but actually you were Janet last time, and last time you did this and I did this, so we're not going to do that. It would be, there would kind of be no learning, right? But let's say I start interacting with Sally, formerly Janet, and something starts to not feel right. And then through introspection and prayer, I realize, oh, well, I'm doing this thing and that doesn't feel right. And she's doing that thing and that doesn't feel right. So if I come to that on my own, that's learning. That's growth. But not just realize it, but then make a different decision. Because Bruno spoke often about the power of habit, that we human beings are locked in and trapped in the power of habit. There's a beautiful metaphor of people don't have records anymore, but the way we used to listen to music was records, and records had grooves in them. And that's how the music was, in essence, recorded. And there's this metaphor of a deep groove, and that the record could get stuck in a deep groove. When we do something over and over and over again, it becomes a habit, and then we don't even think about it. We just do it. So from this past life, I had this habit of interacting with Janet in this way that was not right, not good. And in this lifetime, I bump into her again, and I have the opportunity to recognize, not because I have memories, but to recognize from my conscience, from my soul, hey, something's not right here. And then make a new decision, break out of that groove, and forge a new habit, pattern, or groove. It's not easy. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it comes along pretty effortlessly. Something doesn't feel right. You just make another decision. Sometimes you have to go through it a couple times. Welcome to the School of Life. Thank you so very much for taking some time to listen to these ideas. I hope you really reflect on them. They've been very life-changing for me to give me a completely different view of life and the meaning of life, and to answer that question. Why do bad things happen to good people, and why doesn't God just fix everything like this? Wish everyone a beautiful, beautiful day, and a beautiful day of learning and growth. Take care.